chapter. Right. So I'm going to be all nice and formal. Right. Pardon me. Right. What's the purpose of this discussion? And it's going to be a discussion, by the way. Yes, is to go through an exemplar paper. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. All of it. You've all got to have your cover sheet. Yes. You've got to have your name, the word count. The word count is plus minus 10%. Is that right?
Yep.
Brilliant. Right. You have the research title. Now, if you look at this paper, and oh, crikey. And I will refer, does Keith come back? Right. So some of you around there might be interviewing people in another tongue. Yes?
Right.
It could be German, Maltese, whatever you like to call it. Yes? If you feel it's appropriate to use the appropriate word in that particular language, feel free to do so, as the person has done on here. Yes? So they put an investigation into, and to be honest about it, there's a specific German word for a non-German immigrant background. And that is, Cecilia, can you try and pronounce that for us? Because you don't know.
It's Ausländer Zentralregister.
There you go. And that's the short version of a non-German immigrant background. Got it? So that's what they felt is suitable. And and rather than putting in Germany, they put in Bavaria because there are different states within Germany. It works on a federal system. So if some people are in a federal system, they might want to explain what the federal system is and focus on a particular area. Is that nice and clear?
Yep.
Yes.
Can I move on?
Yeah.
Right. And can you clearly see that they've actually explained it as well? Yeah. So,
Yes.
right. The abstract does not come, it isn't part of the word count at all, but it's a synopsis or an overview of what the paper is. Have you noticed as well that they've started using acronyms in the second paragraph and the first paragraph, actually?
But where did they explain them? Just in, they weren't all in the cover sheet, were they? Or they were? Okay. Never mind.
Got it?
Yep.
And part of that was to avoid the word count. Oh, sorry, I didn't say avoid the word count. Work within the word count. Is that all right?
Yep.
So that's clearly stated. Now, I don't know if they've done it. And then the acknowledgements are whatever it is. Yeah. Now, some people, and I'm not sure if this paper has it, not some people, because they like their acronyms and their word count is a tad too high, they would also have a acronym list beforehand. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it might come up that you find a whole bunch of pattern of words like special educational needs, and it suddenly, and that pushes you over the word limit or fairly close. Put it to SEN, put it in the acronym list at the beginning, and you could save yourself lots and lots of words. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you would have that where? Just on a page by itself?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd have it possibly after the acknowledgements, beforehand. Maybe there is no set place to have it before or after the table of contents, but people have put it before the table of contents. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to lose marks either way. But you don't put your acronym list down at the bottom. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much, Keith. Then what they have is, if you then look at, again, ballpark figure, if I'm not wrong, the introduction is what, about 1,000 words? Yeah. The way they've done it, it can look a bit scary, but actually what they, in this particular case, in order for it to be not so intimidating, actually, if you go into 4 divided into 1,000, it's only 250 word ballpark figure. Can you see? Yeah, is that right?
Yes.
So the 4,000 words, I think, for the chapter 2 becomes a lot smaller because what they're doing is they're breaking the issues around down into component parts. So 2.2 on the childcare, they are breaking it down into component parts. From a marking perspective, can you see how they've done it very, very neatly? Where they've got the table of contents, everything's nice and in line. Yeah, it looks nice. Is that okay? Yeah.
Can you say again how
Can-
long approximately would the literature review be word-wise?
Not that. No. It's very, very clearly stated. And I'm sharing this with people because this is being recorded. It is very, very, very clearly stated in the module guide.
Okay. I'll
Yeah,
look at that.
and so
Yeah.
so everything that I refer to when I go back one sec. Where's the module
So
guide?
everything you're saying is going to be there. It's not like if I've forgotten,
No,
I'm not going to find
no,
it
that's right.
anywhere.
Well, it's here's the module guide. Yeah,
Okay.
and I refer to the module guide, which is there you go, introduction,
Mhm.
1,000
Oh,
words.
I see. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and so also what they've done is, what they've done is I don't know. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections, 6 into 4,000, but then they've got broken it down. Can you see what I mean? So it suddenly becomes smaller. Is that right? Yeah. And for those who have not looked at the module guide, the absolute thing, whenever people have said, "Oh, but the person's telling me to improve my formatting, my presentation, and everything else," if you look down at the bottom of the module guide, this is where essentially where the feedback comes from, and this is what it is. So this is essentially what's being marked to. When I give my feedback in any shape or form, in terms of like before it gets submitted, I'm always working to the 70s plus. And you see that column on the left-hand side where it says learning outcomes 70s plus. Can you see that column? Yeah,
Yes.
that's all that's unless I have something directly in writing that says we are aiming for 50s, which I've had before, my guidance will always be towards this to get everybody to guide people towards this stage. Is that right? So that's all I'm interested in whenever I give feedback. It's that
Yeah.
left-hand column. Yeah. What you will see in a common word, and I'm going to get back to the exemplar paper, is critical analysis or analysis. Can you see where they've got analyze, evaluate, and critique? Can you see where you got 70 plus? Can you see this thing? Yeah. Oh, this one. Yeah.
Yep.
Got it. It says critique, analyze, evaluate. Got it. The next one underneath it says critically evaluate. Got it. It says somewhere down here critical evaluation. That's the thing that potentially isn't as strong as some people could be. Is that right? So it says work related to theoretical principles, blah, 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 limitations, policy, professional, defined settings, clearly indicates the ability to deal with. That, by the way, is more or less embedded within what people are doing. And can you see the column where it says the quality of writing in terms of syntax, format, etc., required publication? Can you see that column there? That 70 column. Yeah?
Yep.
That's exactly, essentially, you guys are reading academic publications. You're used to seeing published academic literature. That stuff gets proofread goodness knows how many times and gets sent backwards and forwards. So the reason why you will get feedback from merge your paragraphs, develop your paragraph starters, and all the other bits and pieces is because if you're going for a 70 or above, it's got to conform to the conventions of referencing are consistent with the quality required for publications in an academic professional journal, the quality of writing in terms of the syntax, cohesion, publication, and the expressed ideas conforming to this. Does that make sense? That's the standard. Is that right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to go down here. Right now, if you then look at the first paragraph, what hits you, if you are marking it, what hits you about that? I will remain quiet until I get an answer. I really need people to just have a look, and I need feedback from people.
Are you talking
The-
formatting wise?
I'm talking about what hits you with it. It doesn't matter. I'm just, you're marking it now. You're looking at that first paragraph. What hits you with it?
I
But I
mean,
guess
the, what I would say is that it all has already they've gone into references. They've put references in straight away.
Right, can I pick you up on that?
Yeah.
Look at the references, read out the dates.
It's all current.
Mm.
It's
Mhm.
22.
It's
Except the
1922. Yeah,
1994.
so what, but it's not, I mean, they've used 94. So what they've done is they've used current as well as to bring it
Historic.
to a coherent situation. Does that make sense? Yeah? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So straight away now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip through this and just randomly go anywhere. And where it stops, nobody knows. Yeah? And look at this paragraph again, based upon what was said just now. What clearly stands out with
Everything's
regards to
referenced.
references? Yeah, can you see it? Yeah?
Well, and they're using good references. I mean, UNESCO, that's a big deal. The UNCRPD, like this isn't just
Got it?
some guy's opinion. This is major stuff.
Right. And then I would refer, sorry, I don't mean to be picking on Keith and yourself. Yeah? But if you are in a country, oh, and actually people in Dubai as well. So if you're in a country, what you do is you pick on the literature that's produced that's appropriate to that particular thing. So Keith, I believe you're doing in Malta, so therefore you would refer to Maltese stuff.
Yes.
Celia, you're in Austria, you would refer to any legislation that's appropriate to Austria. Naina, anything that if you're in Dubai, anything that refers to that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go this again and just randomly, like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, wherever we go, nobody knows. Yeah. And again, look at the referencing. Is that right?
I think it's not longer than 10 years approximately.
The date doesn't so matter. Well, again, I'm sorry, Keith, I'm going to pick on you. I don't mean pick on you, I'm going to choose you. What it could be that you refer back to policies that were formed in, I don't know, 1948, 1950, 1960, and then you're telling us, and then you bring that up to date. So say that in the 1948 or 1956 handbook on something or other, there was it was discussed, there was an inclusion, but this wasn't particularly relevant because they missed, because there weren't certain words there. This was updated in the 1990s in line with whatever it is. Do you see where I'm coming from on this? Yeah. So you use older references where they are appropriate, but it's try to use current literature. Is that right?
Yes.
So for you guys, you're due to submit, oh blimey, late August. Yeah. So for that purposes, if you can get stuff from 2023, that proves that you will be current. Is that right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to keep on banging on about the references for the moment, and I know exactly where I'm going because these are the results. And if we then look at the results bit, again, straight away what sticks out in regards to references. Braun and Clark, by the way, are standard stuff for thematic analysis. But can you see they've put references there, yeah? Then again, they've got references in here. So when they're talking about the female, whatever it is, the fathers took out, blah, 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 they're linking it to a reference. They're looking to the working hours, reduced number of parents, and they're linking it to literature, which they would have included possibly earlier on. Is that right? Yeah. Again, where is it? When they're analyzing their results, can you see the study participates from 13 countries, and it goes in differing attitudes surrounding O'Neill. So what they're doing is they're using the literature to support or argue against their results. Is that okay? So they're embedding their literature throughout in every single element. Yeah? Can I have a yes from people, or I'll carry on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm typing. Yes.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm not looking at, I mean, literally, I can't see what people are doing, so I need that verbal response. Yeah. Now, another thing that I'm going to focus on is look at the tables. Oh, one thing that's annoying, and this is a personal thing. This is a really, really personal thing. Can you see where they've got a 4.3 and they've got languages spoken and they've got 2 sentences? Yeah. Sometimes people will put a heading with no lines and then it will carry on the following one. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So
So
that's just maddening. You can't do that.
I didn't say that.
I said that.
Is that right?
Yeah, it drives me crazy.
Right. So that's a subjective thing of it's just, you could say it's not good academic, it's not good practice. Yes. But subjectively, you could say, yeah, it drives people potty. Is that a fair comment? Yeah, it's just, it looks nice. Now,
So
the
you
next
have
step,
to fill out every single section appropriately, adequately.
well, it's not that. I mean, right, okay. Sorry, who said that?
Joanne.
Right, Joanne. If you were, are you a teacher?
Yeah.
Brilliant. And
Oh,
if
sorry,
you're
Yeah.
marking a kid's work, yeah,
Yeah.
and you've got nationalities right at the bottom, and then the rest of the paragraph just underneath.
Oh, now I get what you mean. Okay, yeah, you have to go to the next page. Sorry.
I didn't say you have. No. It's not formally written in there, but from a presentation perspective, it's neater. Yes.
Okay.
So
yeah.
it could be argued that actually it's part of the consistency with the publication, expression of ideas, conformity, conventions. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, got you.
So
Thank you.
that practice is inferred, but it's not stated that do not leave a title on the bottom of a page and then carry on. It's inferred. Is that fair? Yeah.
Yep.
Can I carry on?
Yeah, please.
Right. Another thing that, because I'm being recorded, I'm being more formal, but please, and this is it drives people crazy when they're marking it. People, some people discover the tables and the use of tables kind of stuff, and I've had a chat with several people in the past, and they said, oh, we've never used this function before, and it's really good. The only problem is that they'll get a table, and then every single table like this one will be of a different color. Yes. And it'll look ever so slightly differently. And then there was one person, it was so funny. They had pie charts, and they discovered the pie chart function in Microsoft Word, and they had used every variation of a pie chart in Word. Yes. Prior to submitting. And it really, really threw out the look and feel of it. Yes. So consistency is key. Yes. Consistent size, consistent color. Also, can you see where you got the numbers on the outside? See where you got like 4%, 14%, and 78%. Yeah, and they've got a key on the right-hand side. Got it?
Yep.
If those numbers, and I ask anybody out there, because I'm asking to the universe, if those numbers were on the inside, would it be harder for people to read?
Yeah.
Right. So it basically, they've got the key. Can you see the look and feel of it? Yes. Does that make sense? It's nice and clear to the reader.
So
You
it's
see
not
this?
necessarily. No, never mind. I just answered my own
No,
question.
go on.
Nothing. I was gonna say, like, it's not like when you're adding a picture, you don't have to have like a caption of what it is because your title is right in there. So that's why I've answered my own question. So you're
Is
good.
that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's keep it neat and tidy. Yes. Again, keep it neat and tidy to read. Can you see how they clearly made the differentiation? It's easy to read. Yeah. So the presentation of the tables, I may not like the bright yellow, but there's a consistency in the bright yellow, and it's clear. Is that all right? It could be because of the setting on my computer, but it's clear and it's consistent. Again, can you see the consistency of color? You might want to have two pie graphs together, keep them smaller, but if you're going to have two together, keep them the same, keep it the consistent size. Yeah. Again, it's readable. Look at the font that they've used. And they've used the same yellow. So I've covered the presentation. One sec. There you go.
David, when you're scrolling through there, what are these things in boxes? Like just a random text in a box. Like if you scroll up a
What
bit.
this?
Yeah, what is that?
Right, okay. So they're quotes from people. Yes. And according to they're literally quotes from the participants.
Oh, okay. But it's not necessary to put them in a box, is it? This person just chose
They
to?
they chose to. Yes. They chose to, and there's no right or wrong, and it is. And thank you very much for bringing that up, because the quotes sort of really should carry a punchline, so to speak. When you're reading what people have written, if you're going to put it in, what's the point in using that quote? Does that make sense? One parent said they could have put the rest of the stuff in, but that they focused on the specific point. Everything becomes easier after getting the paper that gives the child's rights to services. Done. That was the point. And then they supported that with data. It's here because we were able to, a British background said, because we were able to compare the level we would have received, blah, 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 we cannot help feel that the whole system has been negative for the child with parents. And that's where they're ending. Suggestions for improvement. They were very proud of this diagram. If you feel you want to put a diagram in, feel free to try to make it clear. Yes? Is that okay?
Yep.
It's clear.
Yeah.
It makes sense. There is a flow to it. And it was a way for them to explain and express the relationships. What else we got? Okay, so we've got this. And Celia, again, when you said what have they put in the boxes, they've kept it consistent.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Its consistency is the key. Can you see also where they've put parent 4? Where they've got parent 4 and parent 3. Yes.
Yes.
So what they've done is, rather than saying, I don't know, person X or Y, they've categorized them. Let's have a look on that one. Yeah, we're okay on there. So that's okay on there. Right, their reference list. That's their references. They do their references. I'll go back to the rest of it. So they've got their references. Where am I going to? We'll get there. Oh, right. Questionnaire. They've put it. I believe there's a data size. There's a data limit to uploading stuff to turn it in. So you can put whatever you want, as much as you possibly want in, but be aware of the data size. Here's here's an example of their questionnaire. So they've clearly done that. And I would encourage you to look at their questionnaire as well, because after you've looked at their questionnaire, they would have their ethics form. So actually, you can look at their ethics form to match what they've done ethically. I strongly recommend, in other words, put the ethics form in, because that's evidence it's got signed off. If you don't produce your ethics form on there, it could be questioned, have you actually really carried out the research, and where is it? Yes. So attach it, because otherwise it could infer or suggest you might have made all of this stuff up. Yeah? Is
I
this
had a
clear?
Yeah, I had a question because you're showing that they added the questionnaire for people. If we're doing interviews, is it necessary to transcribe the interviews that we have?
No, right, it's not necessarily unless you're asked. Yeah, is that right? If you feel that you want to put some sample transcriptions, feel free to.
Right.
you
So
don't
if
need to
there's
put the
quotes and things like that, but otherwise it's not necessary to have a
yeah,
transcript of everything.
it's not required, and you're
Okay.
demonstrating the stuff. And if there is any question on your data collection, other bits and pieces, the university would come along to you and say, "Can you produce the transcriptions?" Yeah,
Right. So, but we should record our sessions then?
yeah. The thing that so with regards to that, number one, when you should record it because you can play it back. So, and also for transcribing purposes. Now, if you can get hold of software, which it's I think it's readily available now, that you're recording it and then it will automatically transcribe it, you could then do thematic analysis on the words simply by like having it in front of you. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
let's say, for instance, when we spoke yesterday, is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So we could have recorded that and we could have put that into some piece of software and I could have checked how many times I said Switzerland as opposed to Austria, or how many times I said the word the.
Right.
Yes. And you can simply, if you have it in a document format, you can quite easily look for the common stuff. So I'm going to turn around to Celia and say, give me 3 words. No, okay. So I'm going to say happy, dancing, and laughing. Then give me an overarching theme for all of those 3 words. For that
Joy.
emotion.
Joy.
Lovely. No, that's fine. Yeah. I was thinking happy. So when you're analyzing the stuff, you would then look for words that are within a similar theme, and then you would say, this describes. So 20 people use the words to express that they were joyful or happy or ecstatic. Does that make sense? The theme
Right.
that emerged was this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So by you getting the stuff transcribed, and again, 10 years ago, or how many years ago, the software simply didn't exist, or it was really expensive. Put it in, upload it, not a problem, and it'll transcribe it. Yeah. And it just makes it easier. Also, there are, and I will reference the study that I did, the 2 articles that I got published, one of which I kept on playing the stuff back. There's one phrase that the mum said, and I probably played it back 15 to 20 times because what I wanted to do is I wanted to hear understand the emotion behind the words, because they were saying one thing, but their emotions expressed something else. So I made a comment that actually, while the people were expressing themselves, based upon my interpretation of their expressions, they were actually there was a disconnect between the words and their emotions that came across. Are you following my logic on this one? So it's important
Yes.
to record interviews because you can pick up those nuances.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions so far, or just give me a
Yeah.
break for 30 seconds? Go for it.
So we can add the sample of the questions that we asked during the interviews.
Please do.
Okay.
But what I'm saying to you is there's a data limit on Turn It In. Check about the data limit. Is that right? Does anybody have any questions? Because even for 5 seconds, to give my voice a break. No. Right, so I'll carry on. Can you see clearly they've put their student number and they've done the page numbers? Yeah. So presentation it's nice and presented. That's not a problem.
Does the table of content in my previous dissertation I did it, the table of contents, it has to be linked. I mean, if you press on 3.1, it takes you directly to the section.
It's Turn It In. I don't know. To be fair, I don't know. I just, because my job is to read through the essays.
Okay.
Yeah, seems to. but this is a PDF, but on Turnitin, because we're reading it on Turnitin, I'm reading it through. So if you want to link it, great. Yeah.
I
But
think if you download it, it works fine. But on Turnitin, I don't know.
exactly on Turnitin, like it is reading through marking. So I'm not, I'm certainly not jumping backwards and forwards. I the way I mark is I'll look at the presentation overall. I'll get a picture of what the presentation is, and then I'll go from start to finish. Yes, so I'm not jumping around.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but
Yes, you did.
yeah. Right. With their introduction, they've they've set the scene for it. So the inclusion of special educational needs is this the foundation of development in this area. So they've done the big picture. Is that okay? Can you see where they've written down the phrase, a simple search will return hundreds of documents? Yes.
Yes.
What they're saying there is they haven't read everything, but they are saying there's a lot to read. Yes. Because one of the things that people can get caught out on is to say that I've read all the literature. Yes. And then the thought process from the people who are marking it, or whatever you like to call it, is, have you read it in Spanish, English, Portuguese, German, Japanese? Have you read every single area on this literature? And the answer to that is no, probably not. Yes. So by phrasing it as a simple search will return hundreds of documents, would then indicate that there's lots, but they're focusing on the UN one. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yep. Can I ask you, when they're referencing, there was like UN and then it had if you go up to the previous page, it had UN and then it had a year and then it had UNESCO and then it had a year with an A after it. What does that mean?
Check that with what's that thing called? Cite them right. That could be the reference that they've used. Yeah, that could be.
Okay.
Just that's what the reference was for that particular article. Yeah.
Okay.
Chances are, if it's an UNESCO document, by default, you'd automatically be able to generate a reference anyway, because the way they've set it up. Can you see that they've clearly stated the rationale for the focus of this research project is lived experience within the researcher's own expatriate community? Some people put down expat. What they're not doing is they're formalizing their language. Yes, they're contextualizing it. The Bavarian state specifies that. Now, this is the the whole critical analysis element of it. Yeah. Can you see where are they in this paragraph? Where are they being critical without saying I?
Is it saying the lived experience within the researcher's own expatriate community?
So
Because they are referring to their own experience, but they're not using like the first person.
So that's one thing. So they're inferring that they have experience. Yes, got it. So they're not saying either researcher. And now, thank you very much for identifying that. Now, if you read further down, they are not saying I disagree with this and all the other bits and pieces. They are being critical in a very, very academic way.
When it says, but it would appear.
Spot on. Yeah.
Hmm.
They're not saying it isn't, it's not, it shouldn't be, it appears. And the beauty of their language is the paucity of research in the area of diagnosis and provision in Bavaria, the research topics, hopes to provide some insight into this topic. Yes. Can you see the way they phrase this? And the reason why I'm smiling is because I know exactly what they mean by this. Yeah. They're being very, very frank in an academic way.
Yep.
Yeah, and Celia, can you see what? Sorry, I don't mean to keep on talking to Celia, but it's can you relate to this or not from an Austrian perspective?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Now, can I ask you a side question? Because I mean, this person has named their province where they are in Germany. Like in Austria, if I were to say that I was in the province of Vienna, you could narrow down my school very, very easily. So can
Right.
I keep it broad and
Yeah,
just say the country of
absolutely. Yeah,
Austria?
and then what you would do is, in your introduction, yes,
Hmm.
you would very, very clearly state, due to the small nature of the community, blah blah blah, for the sake of anonymity, you are
Hmm.
choosing not to. No, it would be something along the lines of the researcher acknowledges that within Austria there are different provinces, because I don't know if it's a federal system. Yeah, there are different provinces. Yes,
Yeah.
due to the small scale nature of the work and the provinces, um, the researcher is choosing not to identify the province that they're working in, because this would then enable people to identify the school, which would not be ethically correct. So what you're
Right.
doing is you're absolutely very clearly, you're clearly stating to the reader, you
Hmm.
understand your context, you
What? Yeah.
understand everything that's going on, but for the sake of for ethical oh, pardon me, for ethical purposes, it would not be ethically correct for you to identify the province,
Exactly. Okay.
because that would take away the anonymity.
Right.
But you're stating you do know, you do understand, you're not going to, which means if it comes into question and if somebody wants to know more, they would then look you up, contact you, and say, well, which provinces it is, because we want to learn more. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I move on? And Keith,
Yes.
that would apply to you as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So you
Yes.
can keep it sufficiently generic, like open, because you've got an ethical duty to protect the anonymity of the people around. Got it?
Exactly. Yes.
And
Understood.
somebody actually did it in. If you want small, somebody actually did one study in an independent school in Luxembourg, and it's like, how many independent schools are there in Luxembourg that taught this particular thing? It was like, you could pin it down within 30 seconds. Not a chance. Yeah. So thank you very much for that one. Can you clearly see? Yeah, sorry, very long German word again. And again, can you see what they've done in terms of they've done the acronym? Yeah, it's if you've got a language that's particularly long, feel free to use an acronym. Just explain it. Yes. Now, and also for anybody who's possibly, I don't know, we've got have we got some people from like Arabic speaking countries or other non-English speaking countries?
Well, I'm from an Arabic speaking country, but to be honest, English is probably the majority used language in a lot of the educational context.
Right.
So
Are you going to be interviewing educators or parents?
I will be, but I think all those parents will be speaking English.
Right. They they might slip in and out of their mother tongue. Yes. So there was somebody a couple of years ago who was from a Middle Eastern country and working in one of the Emirates. Yes. And they used to
Okay, yeah.
slip in and out of Arabic. And I know a few words of Arabic. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things of, if people are using a word like Yanni,
Yanni.
Imshi,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So what they might
Yeah.
do is, if you're interviewing, they might say, "Oh, Yanni or Imshi or words like."
Inshallah. This way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
might actually, if you're interviewing, sorry, who is this, by the way? I recognize your voice.
Joanne.
Joanne, right. So they
Yeah.
might turn around and say, "Oh, yeah, that's it. I was speaking to you the other day." Right. Sorry, it was the voice of the. So basically, it could be a case of they could slip into it, and they could say, and blah blah blah, Yanni, and inshallah, the school system helps me. Yes,
Yeah.
that infers, by them saying inshallah or or words to that effect. It's like, we hope it's going to happen. Yes.
Yeah.
So that although the system is there to support them, by them using that word, you could infer, if you understand the language and the inference behind it, that actually there's a deeper meaning behind what they're really saying.
Okay.
Yes.
So I don't have to get them to like clarify in English. It's fine because
If you
those
understand the
words
language or
already.
the phrase, no, if you understand the language
Yeah.
or the phrasing,
Yeah, it's
that's
fine.
that's where it's listening to people and understanding. And if you've heard how I'm speaking, I've changed the pace that I'm speaking. If you've heard that I've been a bit during this conversation, I've been a bit wheezy, and
Yeah.
so all of that, when you're listening to people, it can help build that picture on what they're doing. So the reason why I'm wheezy at the moment is because before I spoke to you guys, I spoke to somebody else, and I spoke to somebody else. So I've probably had very, very, very little to drink in the past couple of hours. And one thing that I suggest you do, which I've actually forgotten that I needed to do, was if you're going to interview people, make sure there's something to drink around. The reason is because actually they could get dry, that could slow their pace, that could slow their cognitive level down as well. Yes. So if you're interviewing them, ensure they feel comfortable. Is that right?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I say I forgot that, but this is what this person did as well. Basically, what I think what they did was they just sat down and had a chat with them. Can you, again, coming back to this, can you see where it says research questions and it's very, very clear what the research questions were or are? Yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, 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 really clear for the reader. This is what they're doing. And then they move on. Yes? When I say to people about on the ethics form, big picture, and then bring it down. Yes? Here's the big picture. Is that right?
So
I've got
if I have to write about my country, Pakistan, so I would have to describe Pakistan like at a very big picture level.
Well, if
first.
it's relevant to it. So are you
Mhm.
going to be doing a study in Pakistan in a private school or
I'm
something?
going to, well, in a private organization in Pakistan, yes.
Right. So if I stand to be corrected, yes. Have you heard of a news broadcaster called Deutsche Welt? They're one of I think they're the German state broadcaster. Have you heard of that station? They're on YouTube. No?
No.
Right. So Deutsche Welt, which is like the equivalent of the BBC and CNN or whatever it is, there was an article in Pakistan about the price increases, and they were saying about the price of red onions has increased by 400%. Yes,
Mhm.
and that's
Yes.
actually a benchmark on the state of the economy, because even
Yes.
people people use red onions as a bulk out. Yes, and it's even getting expensive for other people. So the reason why I mention this is because if the whole big picture, even though you might be working for a private or an NGO, you might want to explain the big picture that's happening within the country to then focus on what you're actually researching. Does that make sense? So having seen an article from DW News, which I can reference if people want to clarify, they were talking about, say, the price of red onions. But what they were saying is that actually, as a result of the economy, that's symptomatic of what's happening in the rest of the economy. So, can kids afford, food at school because of the flooding in Pakistan? The people who were growing their own food, their land is flooded. Yes. So, if you feel it's relevant to talk about certain issues within the context of the country, yes,
Yes.
then that brings it in. So I'm not going to say yes or no, but what they've done is they've explained it. This is part of the story of saying about the research. Is that all right?
Okay.
So they
Okay.
talk about the German government is committed to supporting refugees, with foreigners making up a significant part of this is particularly pertinent in light of the global current situation. Yes. And then they go, Germany, big picture, Bavaria. Yes. Is that all right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say yes or no. It's all contextual. One sec. Bavaria also provides public, and then again, they're talking about Bavaria. Research notes. Can you see what they've clearly written? Again, I'm so sorry to identify Celia and help me on this one.
Keith.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you see what they've written? Yeah. Anybody who's potentially using another language, this is how you can explain it. Is that right? And the lady from Pakistan, if you're doing interviews or questionnaires in Urdu, if that's the appropriate language, you might want to put something like this in. Is that okay? And I think there's somebody on the group who might be doing it in a particular area in Ireland where they speak Irish. So again, it's all applicable. You know, if it's not if English is not the first language that's used, you can use something like this. Yeah. And also I refer back to Naina. Yes. Can you see where you've got SEN and special educational needs and disabilities? You might want to use the term people of determination. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you could put, to clarify, the term people of determination is used for the purposes of this because this is the stuff this is the phrase that's used to describe people who would in England be known as special educational needs and disabilities. Do you see what I mean? And then that clarifies it. So again, Keith, there might be a phrase for you. The lady whose name I've terribly forgotten in Pakistan, there might be a particular phrase, and again, there might be a particular German phrase, Celia, in Austria. Is that okay? You're defining it. You don't have to use the term special educational needs. If it's the appropriate one for the country that you're in.
Yep.
Is that okay? Can I carry on? Because I've got about another couple of minutes and then I need to move on. What they've done here is, can you see the introduction? Literature reviews, context of the study, the definition of SEN and inclusion will be reviewed. So they're framing everything on this. The introduction, the reader knows exactly what to expect in the rest of the body. Yeah? Can I move on?
Yeah.
Brilliant. They've done big picture and they've just broken it down. Again, changes, the reunification led to the design of the school system, vocational at every level. Yeah, little have changed since. That's got to there. What you'll find here is they're embedding the critical analysis of what's going on. It's throughout. So some people, you know, well, it's this one as well, to be fair. All of the ones that you actually, all of the exemplar papers, and the one that stands out, you know, the Chinese one, you know, the one that was done in mainland China. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That one initially, I think I told some people that one initially would have got a 35. That one would have good and proper failed. And what happened, what they didn't do was a critical analysis. So if you are the type of person that struggles with critical analysis, what you can do is you can write your main body, and then you can then look, am I being critical? And I believe I've given examples to people about red, amber, green and the traffic light system kind of stuff. You look at a paragraph. Have I got some critical stuff in it? Green is yes, amber is maybe, and red is no. So you look at the paragraph and says, does it have some form of is there an element of criticality in there? Red, amber, green. If it's red, you go, where can I embed some critical stuff in there or analysis? Yes. More recent calls for, and yeah, there you go. Right, how can you see the way they've used the word however? Yes. Got that? Yeah. You still there?
Yep.
However,
Yeah.
and that's where the critical analysis comes in. Yes. The education system is having to react to the needs of increasing speakers. In some areas, the extra classes, and again, they've used the German word. Yes. In fact, and again, that's more analysis. Additionally, the training of, yes, there is an entirely separate route who are qualified. It is difficult to reconcile inclusive state policies with schools who lack the appropriate teacher training. I know what they really meant by that. And do you understand what they're really saying? Are people there?
You
Yes.
lost me for a second.
No,
Sorry.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Can you see where it says it's difficult to reconcile the inclusive state policies with schools who lack appropriate teacher training, trained teachers? Can you see that? See that sentence at the bottom?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you honestly think they really meant?
Well, from the sounds of it, it looks like it. Well, I don't know. It's hard because it depends on how they define inclusion. Like if they're defining inclusion that they want all children to attend it where applicable mainstream school, then they're saying that SEN teachers only work in special schools and they have separate training. Then you could argue that then within the mainstream school, they're not having that mix of that
Okay.
people going from, I don't know, that's what I would get.
If I recall, you're from England. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Right. What's your opinion of what they've written about what's your opinion? Then it says it's difficult to reconcile the inclusive state policies with schools who lack teacher training. So,
Well, yeah, in the UK they don't do a lot of teacher training routes, but to be honest, I don't even know if there's a separate training route for a lot of people who do then become like special educational needs teachers. They start off training as a mainstream teacher and then they just get more experience in special education. So I don't know, it's a bit of a difficult one because I think in a lot.
do they think that it's been good? Do you think does it look like they think the system is good or not?
No, definitely not. But I think that would be the case for a lot of places around the world, not
Right.
just like, yeah.
Bear in mind
David,
go on.
that they're saying the policies are written, it reads like good practice, but it's not been implemented due to lack of training.
Yeah, and in without putting people on the spot, do you think they think it's good or not?
No.
Brilliant. Do you think when I was in conversation with them, they used stronger words than that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So in conversation, bear in mind that they were a former special needs teacher, yes, from England, and they're in Germany now. Do you think they might have used stronger words? Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. But they couldn't use those stronger words. So they used academically appropriate words, like it's difficult to reconcile the inclusive education policies with schools who lack appropriate trained teachers. Yes. Read into it what you will, because I know exactly what they meant by that, and they wrote it beautifully. Yes, because they kept on saying about the lack of appropriately trained teachers. Is that okay? So I'm going to finish on this. What I'm trying to get across, if you want me to run another session for further stuff on, I will do. Yes. What I'm trying to show really is the presentation of it, how they're embedding their literature within it, and how they're embedding the critical analysis. What is
Can I
that
ask
clear?
something?
You can.
Yes. If I understood, I mean, I'm just asking this question. In chapter 2, we need to criticize literature against literature, but in chapter 4, in the analysis of the data, we need to evaluate what we obtained from the interviews versus the literature
spot on, and if it supports it and if it doesn't support it.
Okay.
Yes.
We
So-
critically analyze those two.
Yeah, but in the sorry, if I understand what you're saying, what you're asking, in the literature review,
Mhm.
you're analyzing the literature. Yes?
Yes.
And you're saying whether it's good or bad, or
Yes.
what might be wrong with it. Yes, or how it
Yes.
can be enhanced. Yes.
Mhm.
In
Yeah.
with your results, what you're doing is you're you're tying in your results to the literature and saying whether your results agree or disagree with the literature,
Yes, exactly.
or if they're supported by the literature. Yes.
Or not. Yes.
So I would say the literature, for example, finally, there could be an essay on something that says all tomatoes, all of the literature demonstrates that ripe tomatoes are red.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who of you has ever grown tomatoes?
Yes.
Can ripe tomatoes only be red?
I never eat them, so I wouldn't know. Ask someone
Right.
else.
I think there are
Okay.
I mean,
candies
I've never
now.
grown
They can be
them,
many
but I
colours.
know you can get different colours because I've eaten like yellow tomatoes and all sorts.
Brilliant. And it's the same with peppers. So if the literature said, like, for example, peppers, ripe peppers are the only edible peppers are red peppers, yes? And then your research then finds out that edible peppers are green, orange, yellow, and red, and different variations of it, yes? You would then say,
Yeah.
my finding contradicts this because of X, Y, and Z. Yes?
Yes.
I'm done. I've run over. I'm supposed to be speaking to somebody now. Has this been of use to people? Has it given you an idea of what the paper should look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has. Thank you, David.
Does anybody would you like me to run another session? I'm not saying you attend, but would you like me to run another session to
Yes.
go over the you haven't let me finish
No, right.
to go over the methodology and what other section and the results section?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes, please.
Great.
David, can I ask a question?
you may.
Apologies, Lorna here. I was a little late to this session, just coming from work.
I'm
So I don't know.
I'm 4 minutes late for my next session.
Okay. No, did you talk about action research at the start of this?
No, I have not. I've
Okay.
literally gone over the exemplar paper. That's what this session was all about.
I would be interested in hearing about that
That's
and
what
the methodology.
that's what the focus was on this, which is specifically the exemplar paper. I'm now 5 minutes late for my next session. Yes, so I will record this or it's been recorded, I hope, and then I'll
Yes.
put this up at some stage when I figure out how to do that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
All
thank
right, have a
you.
lovely evening.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank
Right,
you.
I know how to stop it.
Bye-bye.
Ending now.